For those of you who aren't ready to let go of what keeps you in suffering, I honor that too, because I was that as well. And I clung to the things that kept me in suffering because I was comfortable in my space of discomfort. And I didn't really want to believe, my ignorance didn't really want to believe that I could be that wrong, that I could be that off base. Because the ego doesn't want to, ego unconsciousness, it doesn't want to. Well, I can tell you in the place I'm in now that I don't have emotions guiding my reality anymore. I am so open to being a complete fool. I look forward to it. I embrace it. I love it. Because if there's any part of me that's suffering or tense or anxious, I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong about that so that I can relax, But in the beginning, I didn't want to be wrong because I had pride and I had ego, and I wanted to believe that I actually had a handle on what was going on to some degree. And I don't, and I'm just very comfortable with that. I know how to exist without a comprehension of, but I don't have the answers. I just know how to be with not having the answers, which I think is much more important since that's the reality of what we exist in all the time. So, at some point in the evolution of your consciousness, at some point in your space of development, you will no longer need emotions to guide your life. You'll have them. Okay? You may always have them to some degree, but you won't use them to guide your life, and you won't use them to define who you are. Now let's just stop and just think about that. Just be with that. Just reflect on your life. Reflect on how many times somebody was angry at you and how you decided in the moment that someone was angry at you that you had done something wrong, that you hadn't been a good person, that you were a bad girl or a bad boy. That in an innocent place of a purely, what we'll call an accident, where, you spilled your milk or you dropped something off the table. I mean, I'm not getting heady here. And there was an emotional reaction from someone that you held in a space of authority. And it stuck with you. How appropriate is that emotional pattern in your life? I mean, forget about how appropriate it ever was, okay? That's very much up for discussion, and that's all about that situation. Let's say you dumped a glass of milk on the table and your parents got upset with you. Was that really about you spilling a glass of milk, or was that really about your parents not being okay with the glass of milk being spilled? Which one was it? I can tell you it was the latter, but it gets defaulted to the former. And we'll get into more of that as we get into the chapters and beyond where I talk about, speaking your truth. But you got to know the truth first and be in touch with the truth first, and then you can speak about it. And to know the truth and be in a space of recognizing the truth, letting life show you that, bless you. You have to let go of your emotional reactions and have clarity. So we spill a glass of milk and someone gets upset with us. We get a bad grade on a test. We feel bad about it. And I'm not a pessimistic person. I think anyone who knows me knows that I'm a realist. I'm in a space of reality of what is our current space of conscious reaction to our reality? Where are we at now? There's no reason to be optimistic. I know that everything is perfect. It's not about optimism. I'm not telling myself it's good. It is. So when we have these emotional reactions, especially the ones that are traumatizing or set up what I call emotional pylons, okay, which are something traumatic happens, and we set up a pylon that says, I don't want that to happen again. Why? Why don't you want it to happen again? Because it didn't what? It didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. So all of a sudden we start telling ourselves that everything that doesn't feel good is what? Right or wrong? It's wrong. Now just think about that. Think about all the experiences that you completely take out of your life that could bring you incredible levels of enlightenment, growth, change, and you immediately begin to avoid all those experiences simply because they didn't feel good. You just take all these moments of your life and you set them up as pylons. And just picture this whole space in front of me as just being full of 15 chairs, okay? So these moments happen in my past, okay? And then they happen in my past, so I set them up in my future. So when I see these moments that remind me of my past, I start setting chairs up. Well, that has the possibility to look like that did. That has the possibility to look like that did. That has the possibility to look like... So how free am I to really move through the space of my life when I'm constantly putting those things in front of me? You're not. Excuse me. It creates an environment of caution. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that's what it does. It's what it does. So inevitably, if you put those things in front of you and it slows you, it makes you more cautious, what does it do to your pace of conscious evolution? Quicken it or slow it down? It slows it down. This isn't opinion. This is just looking at the energy movement of life and finding out what are we doing and what does it do to our highest good. It slows it down. So how fast or how willing is a person who is very much fearful able to change, fast or slow? Slow. So when they are in a moment of suffering, okay, that requires them to overcome something, how long are they in that moment of suffering? Longer or shorter? Longer. It's math. It's a field of resistance. But it's like a catch-22. The more they fear that situation, okay, the more they create more emotional what? Pylons, okay? So the more they fear, the more they have fear about that situation. And they only have a lot of fear about that situation because they had fear about a situation that resembled it, and they keep adding more fear and more fear and more fear and more fear. And this has a purpose, and this has a function, and that's what I wanted to get to in this example. God, life, will claim you either way. It will force you to overcome your fear either way. You can overcome it by letting it go and coming to a place of consciousness that says there's nothing to fear, okay? You can go into the fear willingly and say there's nothing to fear. What's the worst that can happen? That can happen. Okay, what could happen if that happens? I could be broke. I could die. I could lose this. I could lose that. And you can willfully go to these places and come to a place of peace with those outcomes, okay? Or you can keep building a barrier of fear that becomes impassable. You become paralyzed, you become sick, you become so frustrated, you become so paralyzed by the effect of fear in your life that you can no longer move forward in your life with that fear, usually in excruciating pain, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. And then what are you forced to do with that fear? Let it go. Excuse me, let it go. But you're letting it go after all that suffering and discomfort and pain and resistance. And that's one way to do it. And you know what? I've done it that way. I'm not judging anybody I've done it. I've done it the hardest way. That's why I love you, and I'm in front of anyone who will listen saying, please, no matter what point in the part you are to getting to that point where fear is just getting bigger and bigger in your life, please stop. I'm not telling you can't get to it that way, but I'm telling you that's what's going to keep happening if you go that way. Listen to what I'm teaching you. Do it a different way. And then you'll at least be conscious of how much of that you really need to go through. You may still need to go through some of it, but if you're practicing living the way I'm teaching you, you'll at least know you're eliminating all the unnecessary experiences that you don't need to go through. And more than that, you can stop putting the emotional stuff in front of you, because when you release the emotions and you release the need to have emotions guide you, when they don't need to guide you, where do you stop putting them? In front of you. Because they're guiding you. Don't do this. I got a little Pee Wee Herman thing going here, don't I? So that's oh, that was a oh yeah. And so was the fact that I completely enjoyed it.